Hello and welcome to a special interview episode of Popcorn Podcast with Lee and Tim, where we're sitting down with stand-up comedian Arj Barker about his new Australian film, The Nut Farm. I'm Timmy Fland, movie buff.
And I'm Lee Livingstone, entertainment journalist.
And we love to talk all things movies, so we've just lost it.
We've lost it already because it's such
plot.
a funny movie. Here we go.
It is.
So in The Nut Farm, a failed US crypto trader inherits a macadamia nut farm in the small Australian town of Cobweb, but discovers it's under threat for some evil New Zealand gas frackers.
I mean, of course, they're getting in the way of his macadamia nut farm endeavours.
Assassin gas frackers.
Gas trackers. The Nut Farm is directed by Scott Caulfield from a screenplay by Caulfield, Arj Barker and Sam Bowring.
The Nut Farm stars Arj Barker, Jono Roberts, Madeline West, Tyrrell Mora, Roy Billing, Guyton Grantley, JJ Pantano and Steph Tisdell.
Now, in recent years, American comedian Arj Barker has spent more time in our country than his own, and at this point, he's an honorary Australian.
He is. You may recognise him as Dave from Flight of the Conchords, or have seen him on Thank God You're Here or Spicks and Specks, or even on stage in his numerous stand-up performances.
Just love Thank God You're Here in Spicks and Specks. Incredible Australian TV. Now Barker is starring in his first feature film, and it's only fitting that it is to be an Australian film.
So Barker is here on Popcorn Podcast to chat about how aliens, led by Carl Barron, almost crash-landed the Nut Farm, how he fought for Kate Blanchett to make an appearance, and he shares surprising stories about Australia's deadliest spiders.
He knows more than we know, that's for sure. So let's take a listen.
He must be the new bloke in town.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm Darren. Call me Dazza.
Oh, okay, I'm Brendan, but you can call me Brenda.
Congratulations on The Nut Farm. We've seen you on screen and stage now for very many years here. Why was now the right time for you to take on your first leading role?
Well, it just sort of happened that way. So the first initial concepts for the film go back probably 10 years when we were first, Sam Bowring and I, one of the writers. There's three of us who wrote it, but initially it was just Sam and I, and we had pitched a similar concept as a TV show. We spent some time trying to get that going, but for various reasons, things don't happen. And then later we were introduced to Scott Caulfield, who was looking for film concepts, and we decided to pitch The Nut Farm as a one-off film concept, and he loved it. From then on, us three started developing the script for the last, starting about 4 or 5 years ago. I always wanted to play the lead. I always wanted to play the main character. That was initially basically a vehicle that I'd come up with. What if I inherit a farm in Australia and then I can be the fish out of water, which is a classic premise. I'm not claiming we invented that, but I thought this is a terrific fish out of water comedy scenario. Initially, I don't think it was a nut farm. I think it was just a farm, maybe with bananas for all I can remember. It was a while back. Yeah. And there was, it's gone through iterations. At one point, there was a UFO theme and an alien wandering around. What we were hoping was going to be played by Carl Barron, but he's not affiliated, nor did he ever agree to do it. We thought he would have been terrific in that role, but things changed so much. I've always been up for it, but it just takes time, and we finally got there. So here we are.
How did the name Brendan
It's Brendan
come to be? Brendan Brandon, yes.
I think Sam came up with that, and he just thinks it's hilarious that his first and last name are so similar, and everyone's always getting it backwards and wrong. And Brendan doesn't see it. He doesn't understand why. Why is it so hard? It's Brandon. Brandon's my last name. Brendan's my first name. Brandon. Next. Okay, Mr. Brandon. No, it's Brandon. You said Brendan. So we play with that. We have fun with that.
It did make for some nice comedic moments there. And this was already a low budget film, and then obviously COVID hit and threw a spanner in the works, and Scott had to cut the budget even more, I understand, to get it back on track. How were you cutting costs to keep it afloat? Like, what was the feeling on set?
Well, we weren't cutting. Once we started filming, we had our budget, and so we knew what we had to do. And Scott was terrific in figuring out how to make the film with what he had. And thank goodness for our, amazing the investors who had believed in it, and a big thanks to them. But the budget was was yo-yoing a bunch before that, and so that would result in script changes. There was an initial version that had a lot of like CGI creatures, and we were going to play up on the whole dangerous animals in Australia, and we even had like a drop bear battle and
Nice. That would have been fun.
dam sharks. Like there were sharks in the freshwater dam. So we were playing up on the whole everything in Australia can kill you and hoop snakes, and we had it all.
What's a hoop snake?
A hoop snake puts its tail in its mouth and it forms a wheel to roll towards you, and then
like a hula hoop,
and goes in your eyeball. No, I don't know. I think a hoop snake is a classic, one of those ones they make up.
Well, you've lived in Australia for quite some time now, haven't you? And you
I live back and forth. I prefer to say I base myself here when I'm on tour, and I do tour here a lot, so you can do the math.
Yeah. Well, you must have plenty of your own spider encounter stories by now. Do you have any fun ones to share? Like, is it Kevin or Keith that was the spider in the house? I can't even remember.
I don't think it's either. I'm blanking on that too.
Yeah. The spider in the house.
I have the IMDb up here, but they should have the spider on the IMDb too, right?
They should, right? Yeah.
It might be Kevin. One weird thing, I used to live in the Northern Rivers, not far from where we shot this, because I love it up there. And I just think it's beautiful in the green hills. But I love wildlife, and I don't even mind spiders. I used to find a spider stuck to my carpet, like one of those big ones. What are the big ones that go in the house? Wolf spiders, maybe?
Yeah, or huntsmans.
Yeah, one of those big ones, and the poor buggers would get stuck in the carpet because their legs are so hairy, and it would get caught with the fibers. This might strike people as pretty weird, but I would try to save them, and I would carefully extract them and then put them in a box on a moist paper towel so they could rehydrate. And a bunch of them would eventually get better and leave. So it was like, I called it the spider hospital. I don't have any problem with spiders, but on the day I'd sold the place and I was leaving, but we saw this incredible funnel web, and it was a big one too. It was like this, and it was walking on the ground, and I identified it I had a spider book, and I'd never seen one the whole time I was there. And on the very last day, I saw what was arguably the most dangerous spider walking about a meter from the house, just strolling.
Presumably, you didn't pick that one up.
Actually, he got trapped in a little drainage pipe thing.
Yeah.
Because here's an interesting thing. The more dangerous spiders in Australia can't climb very well. They're called a primitive variety. The ones that can climb brilliantly and climb on walls are what they call modern spiders. I don't want to quote it on this, but this is what I remember reading.
Yeah.
They can climb all over anything. They're incredible.
Yeah.
Why is this important? Because if a spider made it into your car and dropped out, it's almost certainly not a deadly spider. It might be big. It can't hurt you.
Some would argue it might be deadly if it surprises you and you careen off the road.
That's why I'm telling people this.
Yeah.
Because they have the fear of death. That's that level of fear spiders instill. The really dangerous ones, they can't even climb up your tire. They can't get into your car, and they can't grip on your car. So I'm telling people that, so if it happens, they can go, okay, well, that's a big spider, but it's not deadly.
Arj Barker for spider conservation.
I'm trying to help people. If that happens, they won't get too alarmed and they want to go off the road. I'm just telling people that's not a deadly spider in your car.
Yeah. I learned something new. I've been in Australia my whole life, and there you go. I learned something new. Besides our lack of water in the toilet bowl, are there any culture quirks or differences that you still find odd about Australia?
No, what I love about it is more what I love about it. I love that there's generally a trust among strangers that doesn't exist in the States, or at least not anymore. I mean, there's always exceptions. There'll be exceptions on both sides. But generally, I can be on the street and see someone, with a cute dog, and I can just go up and chat. And it's not this suspicion, like, what does this person want? Are they going to try to murder me? Or are they weird? Are they a weirdo? You can chat to people in a lift. There's less of a barrier between people. And I love that. It's an openness that I hope this country never loses.
Some would argue Australia is full of weirdos.
People are weird in general. Like, like all families are weird, right? When you get to know a family, everyone thinks my family's so weird. Everyone's family's weird, because, we all are complicated creatures, but there's a general friendliness and an openness in public that I love here. And I hope it doesn't go the way of these States, where I think it's gotten worse in the States because of all the political division and suspicion and derision that's happened. People are pretty darn friendly here overall. And there's always exceptions.
Speaking of friendly people on the Nut Farm, you're working with some of the most talented comedic actors, even though some of them are from New Zealand. We'll forgive them that. Take us through a typical work day on set. How much work did you actually get done?
Well, loads. I mean, I don't think I've ever worked that hard because I'm in like 95% of the scenes.
Yeah.
So I'm literally going from one set to the next from the moment I wake up, and I probably have to get up, on average, get up by 6 a.m. to be on call for 7 a.m. and work till 4 or whatever, 4:30. And, you get a break for lunch. I mean, I never worked that hard, but the cast and crew are all so professional and so dedicated that you just get swept up in that. And there's not a question of not doing your best or not working hard. And it's very inspiring. It was phenomenal. And I learned a lot. I would ask these guys some advice, and because it's my first lead role. So I've dabbled with some acting, but it was a big deal. So they helped a lot. And I just went for it. I said, what can I do? I'm just going to do my best. And that's what I did. So I think it came out pretty good.
Yeah, it was real fun. Before I wrap up, I just have to ask you as well, how many tree-related nicknames did you come up with, and did any of them not make the cut?
Yeah, loads. Loads did. Loads didn't. I would have to go back and think of which ones didn't make it.
One of my favorites was Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett.
It's a good one.
And we had to fight for that one.
Oh, really? Why?
Well, because there's always different forces saying, hey, that's enough of this. We should do that. Let's go in a different direction. Scenes get cut, scenes get changed. And there was a point where Sam and I said, come on, we got to get Kate Blanchett in. And that's a classic.
It is a classic. Well done.
Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't know if that one made it in there.
No, I don't think that one did.
We were racking our brains. There must have been a 10 or 12 altogether or more. Probably. There's probably some that were so bad that they got brushed under before I ever knew about them. It was a lot of silly stuff like that. You know what it is? It's a silly movie with a lot of humor, but also kind of a nice, solid message. And one thing I want to say is I didn't initially plan on trying to make a family-friendly film, but there's a lot of forces, and you guys that know film, anyone that knows film at all knows there's a million factors when you're making a film, especially a lower budget film where you change the script or the budget dictates a lot of what can happen. But how it came together and all the different factors, it just turned out to this lovely, quite often funny, but often very heartfelt family comedy film. So I'm kind of excited because I think that they don't make a lot of movies like that. I feel like Australia makes a lot of gritty dramas, which I love, like The Tourist. Movies like that I've been really enjoyed. But this is something that I think it's nice to say when I'm doing a show. I'll say, hey, we got this film coming out. And I've been telling every audience, bring your family, And check out the soundtrack too. Paul Kelly, Mental as Anything.
Oh, yeah. It was amazing.
So we got legends of screen and TV and legendary Aussie musicians. And people don't think of me as an Aussie, but definitely it is a labor of love, Australian style, for sure, the whole thing.
Well, you're an honorary Aussie to us, Arj, and thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thanks. Congrats on the Nut Farm again. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, thanks a lot. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for letting people know about it.
You get a good look at me nuts?
No.
Farmer D's the name. Proud owner of D's Nuts.
Brendan, or was that Brandon? I don't know. Such a simple comedic device, and it works so well in the film.
It does. And who knew Arj Barker knew so much about spiders?
More than we know, and we live here.
He knew so much it was almost half the interview's worth of conversation. He just was a factoid of spiders.
Yeah. Have you ever had a spider jump out at you in the car?
Oh my God, I can't. I feel unwell. Yes, I have had a spider on the inside of the windshield.
I'm sorry, take me back to that moment, Tim. How did it make you feel?
This is not therapy, and you don't want me to go there.
Okay, moving on. The Nut Farm is in Australian cinemas from March 14.
And as always, friends, thank you so much for listening.
We'll catch you next time. We are now on YouTube, guys, where you will find our latest celebrity video interviews. Simply search Popcorn Podcast with Lee and Tim and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single one.